Hey everyone, welcome to the Neo Marketing Podcast special edition today because I have a special guest, the crew from Broke Brewing. We're going to talk about how they started a brewing company and then pandemic hit. We're also going to taste beers and talk about the motivation behind why they do what they do on this episode of the Neo Marketing Podcast. Welcome to the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion of modern business communication. Hey everyone, here we are once again on the New Marketing Podcast. This is actually episode number 99. That's a big deal for us, right? We have a special guest, the guys from Broke Brewing. Introduce yourself, starting over here.
My name is Charn, Langford. I am the CEO of Broke Brewing Company. I handle the front of house stuff, paperwork, things like that.
And also...
Mike Groshong, brewmaster and founder, or co-founder.
So Mike has been in the beer game for a long, long time. Charn is jumped in recently, so he got a combination of a ton of experience seeing how the industry's kind of gone through ups and downs and everything else, and then bringing a completely different business perspective to this collaboration. So give us the quick background on how you guys decided you were going to come together and create Broke Brewing.
Well, it really started when Mike and I met about, I think probably 5 years ago now, 4.5, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And you were working at a different brewery at the time. You were working at Mustang, and I had been just a patron at Mustang for a while. And I'd been drinking his beer. I didn't know who he was, but then we actually met each other at the Oklahoma City Boat Club. And then I kind of had a moment of like meeting the brewmaster. It's like, oh my God, I drink your beer all the time. It's so great, blah, blah, blah. And kind of through sailing, just sort of became friends that way. It wasn't for like a year before we started talking about anything on the business side of going together.
So just a chance encounter, create a relationship, friendship, and then it ended up an opportunity to do something in business, right?
Right.
So your background's extensive in brewing. Tell the folks who maybe don't know who you are a little bit of your background and how you got from the day you were a rookie to where you are today.
Let's see. I started, I guess it was back in 92, home brewing.
Right.
And through climbing, I met a guy who was a brewmaster from Colorado who was getting ready to open up a chain of these brew pubs. And I showed him some climbing around Oklahoma because Oklahoma has some great climbing areas and everything. And so after we get done climbing, I'd be like, hey, man, could you give me your opinion of my homebrew?
Right.
And a couple of months into this, we had been talking and everything, and his brewery was getting built and everything. Here, it was at Tulsa Brewing Company. And he said, where are you at right now? And I told him I was a college student at OSU and was in engineering, but I had gone through several majors and was kind of looking for where I belonged in life, kind of. And he goes, well, with your background, I had done pool work and engineering and maintenance and all kinds of things that created a great background to start a career in brewing. He liked my beer so much and said that it was some of the best homebrew he had ever had. He asked me to come down and start at the brewery, or at least to check it out. I went down there and stayed two days and was hooked. I loved every aspect of it. I liked creating the product and bringing it from grain to glass and making the different colors and flavors and hops and fruits and everything. And plus, at that time zone in Oklahoma history, we were in the 3-2 zone.
Definitely in the 90s for sure. We were deep in the 3-2 zone, right?
Yeah, and so I kind of thought, I really didn't like the 3-2 thing because my homebrew is much stronger and everything. But when I started making the beer, I realized that my challenge for this job was to make really good tasting 3-2 beer, so that it's as close to 6-point as you can get, even though it doesn't have the alcohol content. So I strive very hard to bring us the different flavors from all over the world.
And you were saying over the course of at Tulsa Brewing and at Coach's, where you were brewing at Coach's in Norman for a long time too, Able Commission would come in and like other people would like send your beer off for testing because they're like, no way it's 3.2.
Everyone was like, oh, there's no way this is 3.2, and it's like, yeah, it is. It's just I'm going for the full flavor threshold.
That was always the knock on 3.2, right? The stereotype of 3.2 is that it was just wasn't flavorful. Yeah.
And actually, 3.2 can be really good. Most of the session beers out there are in the 3 to 4% range, and it's something you can have a couple of, or not like some of the big beers today where it's high alcohol content.
Yeah.
You can't have as many.
Yeah, they're really great, but they're more for sipping on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, some people like to have multiple beers and cool off in the shade, on a patio or something. So there's different styles of beers for different types of events.
Right.
So that's what I really loved doing, was educating the masses here in Oklahoma that beer was as special as wine, because it has so many different styles and uses, and it's great to cook with. I can go on, but mainly that's why I'm here, is I wanted to explain to people what beer can be,
right?
And give them examples. So there's a lot of great examples out there now too. And when we started, there was barely anyone.
Right.
So
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and there was
Like we have today.
there was contract breweries, and what they did, a couple of those from Oklahoma, is they partnered with another brewery that already had the production system set up, and so then they would license them to make their product through another brewery, and that was the way to go at the time.
Like a white labeling, like a manufacturing would be white labeling.
Yeah,
right?
and it's how you get started back then.
Yeah.
And now there's
Yeah.
more equipment
Or
that's
ODM, original
prevalent,
design.
and smaller equipment that's prevalent. And so we're starting to see a lot of great homebrewers out there step up to the plate. And I love seeing that. I love seeing the enthusiasm in Oklahoma when I go to a beer event and I see all the different breweries. It's because I never gave up, and I made great 3.2 beer, and I've been pushing that torch towards everyone that there's great beer out there, and I'm so happy to see all the home brewers with their success and everything. It shows I've been doing my job all these years of pushing the new craft beer and stuff.
It only took 25 years. Because the state of Oklahoma took their time, but thank goodness we're where we are today, right?
And it's people needed education, or people needed to go and see what other people have in other states, and that's how we started doing the different styles. Is a friend of mine in the aircraft business or something, would fly somewhere and bring me back a certain beer from this place, and he would tell me a story, and it was always nice to sample that and then to try to remake it. It's like, I wonder how they did that. But they probably used a little of this and a little of that, and then locally they can get this ingredient. So the craft beer is all about the local, using ingredients from local people, and getting ideas and stuff, and promoting it locally.
Right.
So you're promoting the craft.
And I find engineers are drawn to brewing a lot. Like a lot of guys who sort of had a great engineering careers and then went on to retire and like kind of taken some of the nest egg they built. They end up getting into brewing a lot. There's something about the brain of an engineer that goes to brewing, it seems like. But a much more creative version of engineering, that's for sure.
Yeah, I like engineering the flavors.
There you go.
I'm a beer engineer is what I am.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always trying to do, is create the next best flavor or next combination or technique. That's what I'm about.
Yeah.
On that part.
That's a great way of describing what you do, especially in a craft situation, and what you guys are doing here at Broke. Now, Charn, your background is completely different.
Yeah. So my background is in audio engineering. So acoustics. I did transducer design for DD Audio. I did international sales and technical sales. And I did process design for DD Audio as well. So some of the things that we do over there, like our composites room, I sort of designed the flow of that room and trained staff there, worked, with others and kind of designed the layout of the production floor. And so that translated really well to craft beer also.
Because it's a process.
Absolutely. I mean, we're manufacturing art,
Right.
essentially. It's like there's a lot of cooking elements that go into it, and you're melding flavors together and sometimes it's as little as like, we just found this great supplier for this one ingredient. It's like, how can we build a beer around this great flavor that we found, and figure out what we need to do.
There's also a ton of business process behind that, right? Like
Right.
you said, like sourcing,
Yeah.
there's purchasing, there's shipping, there's inventory management, there's timing and all of that stuff too, right?
To keep the machine running, you definitely have all of the logistics behind it. I was going to say, you mentioned that like engineers are drawn to it. So not just from a recipe and beer, like you've got the biology and the chemistry aspects of it. So which you've got, the engineering and scientific side there, but also just the little widgets and things that you need to build to do all of the processes. So
it's very mechanical,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So like for us, we've got a 5-barrel brew house, 10-barrel fermenters, and we're in this small, our back of house facility is like 1,300 square feet. We've got canning operation, kegging operations. We've got 16 taps that we're filling from back there. I mean, we've packed a lot into a small space, and we've done it by not like some of the things that we have back there are made here on site. Like we're designing pieces of equipment and building them, finding parts, putting it together. What's our problem? Create a solution.
Typical, which is a typical entrepreneurial approach, right? Is we need it. It doesn't exist. Let's make it, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Or let's rig something up and figure
Yeah.
out how to make it work, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
guys
especially like a lot of the things that we're making exist on a large scale. So if we were at the 30-barrel, 50-barrel, 60-barrel, 90-barrel level, like a lot of the big production facilities, then all of this stuff exists already. So you can do sort of case studies, look at what they're doing. Obviously, it's on a much larger scale, but how do we scale that down to a size that accomplishes the goals that we need it to and compromises on what we can't do on a small scale?
And that's back half of the house. But then we have the front half. We're here in your tap room, this beautiful tap room where the public is invited, which, of course, anything where the public is invited, we're being affected by COVID-19, by coronavirus right now. This space actually opened the week that the...
2 weeks before.
Right.
2 weeks and a couple of days.
Within a couple of weeks of the whole state being shut down initially because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So... that had to suck. What did you guys do to just manage that process?
I mean, it was a lot of uncertainty, and a big part of it is just the mental battle that occurs when like you've made all your plans and you're opened up. We got to the grand opening, which is a big struggle in and of itself, and then 2 weeks later, we're like stomping on the brake pedal because we can't do anything, and I mean, it definitely hits your psyche, and just keeping motivated to keep coming into work, to try new things, was probably the biggest challenge to get over when it first started. But once you get over the initial shock of like what's going on,
The distractions.
Absolutely.
It's like you just want to do your job, and it was very difficult at that time.
Yeah, we ended up. I mean, a lot of it had to do with just reminding people that, like, yes, we're not open to the public, but we are selling to go. At the time, our canning line wasn't running yet, and we didn't have any glassware either. So we were just kind of like letting people know, like, hey, if you bring your growlers, I'll pick them up at the door and I'll clean them and then I'll fill them up for you, to try and get anything that we could. But I mean, we're still feeling now that we're not open fully because we're still, there's still procedures in place to deal with the pandemic, but we're still feeling the initial aftershocks now because it definitely disrupted our production flow, because with beer at any level, it's all a balancing act of you've got timers on when you're buying raw materials, when you're getting your yeast. Once you've brewed once, now you've got a healthy yeast culture that's going to have a timer on it, and juggling all these things. And Mike can speak a little bit more to that, what we've had to do.
Yeah, the production came to a screeching halt pretty much, and then we basically sold all our supplies that we made for the opening, and survived off that for like 30 days or so.
Yeah.
And then we had to re-up on some ingredients that have a time date on them, and but we're back and going, and things are getting steadier. We're getting more consistent sales. It's looking good. I suspect also when this pandemic is over, there's going to be a lot of celebrating.
That's for
Yeah.
sure. That's absolutely for sure. Our philosophy has been on the podcast, because we've been talking about COVID this whole time, on every episode of the podcast, has been adapt, adopt, or pivot. Mm-hmm. Now, you make beer, so there's not a massive pivot you can do, but you definitely have
Right.
been adapting and adopting new policies and procedures,
Yeah.
and adapting how you went about business from your original plan. Right?
Packaging was what we had to push up the fastest. We weren't initially planning on getting as deep into packaging as we are now, and for another couple of months when the lockdown started, because we were just focusing on getting our core beers, very consistent, making sure the tap room is running like it's supposed to. But then all of a sudden the tap room wasn't like
Right.
a problem
Didn't
anymore.
function.
Yeah, so we didn't have to worry about that. And so it was kind of nice. We were able to get some of the things in the back of house on the production side. We had some projects that we didn't make our grand opening deadline that we were able to work on, in the meantime, and not have to worry about, keeping taproom hours and stuff, which was, I would rather had to deal with the taproom hours, but, you got to make the most of what you've got.
But that's business, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
you set out with a business plan, you have a strategy, you have all these things in place, but no matter what, there's always things, usually small things, but sometimes big things and massive things like COVID-19 that just force your business to go in different directions. That's any business, right?
I guess the biggest thing now that we've done with, the opening that we can do, is just making sure that we've got a good community atmosphere. So we actually have a very large number of regulars that come in. I would say the majority of our sales are to recurring customers, which in this industry is really a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Start small, right? Start loyal, and then kind of build out from there, almost spiral out from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and craft beer nowadays is very, you don't have as much loyalty like to one brewery specifically, because there's so many good local options that it's kind of, you don't see that as much as you used to.
I can like see that in myself too. There's a lot of the brewers around town that I like to support, but I have a favorite IPA over here. I have a favorite
Right.
Pilsner over here. I have a favorite stout over here. And so, it's not, having to support the whole
It's
portfolio.
Loyal to local,
Yeah.
but not loyal to one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting when there's like one or two beers from a brewer I like, and there's a lot of stuff I don't. I'm always curious, like, how did I connect with just that and not with everything they're doing? But I think the freedom to experiment and do different things in craft situations as opposed to mass production allows for that, those variables in the taste, right, and flavors, etc.
Yeah.
Which is great freedom for the brewmaster, right?
Right.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with the regulation that the U.S. puts on beer, or lack thereof, rather, like compared to some other countries.
Oh, right.
Like Germany, for instance, has like very strict regulations of like, if you're brewing a beer and you want to call it this style of beer, like it has to be. I mean, sometimes it's like a time of the year. Like you have a window of time that you can brew this beer, and that's it. And if you want to make one in the off season, well, too bad, because you can't. If you have to use these type of ingredients, like similar to Kentucky, or like with bourbon rather,
Right.
you don't have to make it in Kentucky, but you do have, like, it's got to be 51% corn mash. It's got to be the mineral content of the water, and it's got to be, American white oak, right? White oak barrels that are never been used before. So virgin barrels and like things like that.
You can't refer to champagne as anything that doesn't come from the Champagne region of
Right.
France.
Precisely.
For sparkling whites versus champagnes, right?
Yeah. And wine has that, whiskey has it, beer in other countries has it, but in the U.S., we don't have any of those rules or regulations. If we want to make something that has never been made before, like, we can do that. Or if we want to take an existing traditional style and put our own twist on it, we can.
Right. Let's talk about beer. That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
So tell us some of the core beers that you guys are consistently doing, and then anything that you've been playing with or experimenting with that you're having fun with that along the way, because I know you do a lot of experimenting.
Yes, all the time. Let's see. So the core beers are, we have a honey blonde, an amber, a brown, and a stout, an Irish stout. And there's more to come. We have 16 taps. We like to play with different styles, so we're always coming up with our own styles or mimicking other styles of beer and trying to add fruit to it or chili peppers. We have
Donuts.
donuts. We've done donuts.
Right.
In fact, we've done donuts in the boil kettle, and that was interesting.
Turned out really well.
Yeah, it did. The maple bars were nice. No one got hurt.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Let's see. So on my core beers, I have a honey blonde, which is a very light, refreshing summer beer. Then I've got an amber ale, which is got a little bit of caramel to it. It's very, warm.
I got the blonde and the amber.
Yeah.
While you talk about that blonde, I'm going to have a little bit of this blonde. Full disclosure, I've had all of these because I'm here on a regular basis. That's how I know these guys. My office is about 15 feet from here, which is an amazing thing for me as an entrepreneur to be able to dip into the tap room and have a drink or meet a client and have conversations. So happy that you guys are in this space. But the honey blonde and the amber, like more on the kind of lighter side of the spectrum.
Yeah, I would say the honey blonde's on the lighter side. It's light in hops, light in body. It's a good summertime drinking beer.
Very
Good
traditional.
Yes, sessional.
And that's a great when it's hot outside beer.
And
for
it's
sure.
just got a hint of honey in there, not a lot, just for the flavor. The amber, though, it's an American amber. It has American hops. It's got a nice caramel note. It's got beautiful color, and it's a really good beer. I like that one. Is what I usually drink most of.
So really, I think it's a really good, just strong example of
Yeah,
an
it's
amber, right?
yeah, and
Some ambers are a little bit kind of wishy-washy, I guess, and I think this is more
It's-
for flavor forward.
yeah, flavor forward.
And that's an amber ale, not an amber lager, which is
Right.
part of the difference, yeah.
Right, and we are coming out with lagers. In fact, very soon here on Labor Day, we're going to have a lager release. So that one will be up and coming very soon. Let's see, what else? We got the English Brown, and we don't have a representation of
Right.
it here.
So we have the stout here, and we have the IPA, right?
Right.
So go ahead and tell us. I'm gonna finish off this one. So tell us about the English Brown.
The English Brown is a very nice beer. It has English hops, and it's got a real dark note to it. Not quite stout, not quite porter, but it's definitely on the darker spectrum for the browns. I like it to be full of color, but it's a real nice beer. I like it in the fall. It's a very good fall beer.
And what I noticed with the brown, that's probably my favorite beer that we have like on a consistent basis. But with our customers, brown is one of those styles that it's easy to do, but it's also easy to do wrong, and so it's not, it doesn't fly off the shelf like some of our other styles do, because people see brown ale and they're like, oh, I don't know if it's the color brown that like puts in their mind, I don't know, imagery that's not necessarily like tasty.
Some great beer that's brown.
Well,
yeah.
some people are afraid of the darkness.
Yeah, that's true.
Come
You
to
hear
the
that a
dark
lot,
side.
right?
Yeah.
Come to the dark side. It's
Actually,
good.
so speaking of
But
dark,
they either get coffee or chocolate, and we don't have any adjuncts in that beer. It's all malt, hops, and yeast. But they either get coffee or chocolate, and almost never do they get both. And so I don't know what it is about people's palates in that beer, but like some people get that coffee on the back note, and then it's either or chocolate, and I don't know if maybe it's just like how people's taste buds develop.
Perceive it.
Yeah.
so going a little darker.
Oh, that's a good Irish stout. I love the Irish stouts. All the ingredients are from Ireland, and we strive to do our own rendition here in Oklahoma of it.
That one's
rich.
served with it's
Well, nitro.
nitrogenated. Yeah.
So, and you guys have a couple of versions of stout, right?
Yeah, we do a vanilla version, and we've done.
Which one is this one?
That's the Sterling Stout,
Right.
Yeah,
which
we've
is
done
our
s-
standard.
Yeah, we've done some rum barrel versions and some different. We're still in the early stages, but I
When
think
the-
there's going to be some very complex versions coming.
Yeah, when the fall comes
So-
back around, right, we like to keep at least one stout on. Usually it's 2 or 3, and then when the fall comes back around, we'll have probably 3 or 4 on.
And my personal favorite style, I'm a big IPA drinker.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we have here?
So that's the Northeast IPA. It's called Juicy Dividends.
Right, hazy.
Hazy, very hoppy, heavy on the hop note on the nose.
Yes, very hoppy, which is how I like it. And there's a big range there, right? A lot of IPAs can be from some hoppiness to really massive in-your-face hoppiness, right?
Yes, this one's more aroma forward. The bitterness isn't as high on this one.
The aromatics on this is like, I mean,
Yeah.
from here, I already know what to
The
expect.
amount of hops I put in that, I'm surprised it's not green.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's how I like my IPA. I like my IPA like this. That's really just, smashing you in the face with the hops. Some people don't, but I think that's what a good
It's
IPA
not an
is.
exaggeration. There are pounds and pounds of hops in that beer.
It's the new favorite right now, and
Yeah.
we're also coming out with a West Coast.
A West Coast IPA that's on the way.
It's going to have all West Coast ingredients in it. That one's
Even the yeast was excited when you brewed that one, because
Yes.
it was like within an hour, it was already bubbling on the
Like
blow-off
crazy.
tube. Normally that takes a few hours.
Yeah, we expect to have 2 or 3 IPAs on, so this is only the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me excited. Like I said,
The-
I'm a huge IPA fan, so I'm super happy about that.
So we've got kind of represented a range we have everything from our traditional styles of like our English and Irish beers, where we've got some German styles that are going to be coming out, especially around with Oktoberfest coming. We'll have some things like that coming, but our definitely our roots, and Mike's roots especially, are in the traditional styles, and we do craft beer on our especially with our rotators and things, like your more I guess trendy styles and things like that. And the New England is an example of it's a massively popular style right now. It looks like it'll probably stick around for quite a while. We did a lot of research when we were developing that recipe. We got in some of the top representations of that style from around the country and did some tasting, did some research, did some sort of like reverse engineering, and then once we understood what's going on and what the goals are, then we could come forward with our own. So this is like the third, I think, iteration of the testing that we had to do to develop this style.
So, Mike, if someone they're a home brewer or they're working somewhere, but they really think they want to make a career someday, I want to be a master brewer, what kind of things should they be thinking about? What should they be studying? Like how should someone go from maybe an amateur towards the idea of being a master brewer as a career?
I kind of did a lot of work in the pool business, and so I already knew how to use pumps and repair them and fluid dynamics basically of it. And then I had background in mechanical design engineering, so I was used to doing drawings. Okay. So since I've gone and built almost a dozen of these things, I kind of understand how to lay it out and how to get the most production out of it. So you want to look at that in your schooling. Also, at the time when this job opportunity came to me, there were very few school opportunities for me to take because it was either Germany or California at UC Davis, I think, was the only two at the time. And I wasn't able to swing that at the time, and was going to go to school here in Oklahoma. And so I kind of didn't think I had a possible chance at ever be doing this job. And so I was doing other things, and then it all kind of fell together with the home brewing that it was a good direction for me. And I wish I had had more schooling, but I've been brewing beer every day just about and learning about it. And so it's school every day. And with brewing, you're always learning stuff every day because there's new techniques, new styles, new ingredients, it just every day it changes. So we're always looking for new stuff. But the schooling... Yeah, I think there's more education for brewing out there, and more schools and more opportunities, and I'm glad to see that because it's a great career and everything, and I love it. So I'm a lifelong.
So would you say for somebody who wants to get in to start home brewing as the main priority,
sure,
or
see if you like it,
to try and get a job at a brewery?
Brewing's a lot of cleaning, so
that's true.
You need to do your home brewing and perfect your recipes, just like if you were a large scale brewer. Right. Perfectionist. That's what I am when I make an ingredient or a product. Is I want it to be, a great product. I want it to be safe for the public, and I want people to come back happy. And a lot with my beer is the great thing about my beer is that as I make it, it's so nice to have people comment or come up and talk to me about it because it shows they really like something that I made, and you don't always get that being an engineer, getting that reward of the public talking to you and giving you those pats on the back.
No one ever says, "This is a great building, thank you."
Yeah.
Hugs.
Right. Yeah, and so that was one of the things.
Right. Yeah, I was like, man, this is just the best bridge ever. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you don't get that, but
yeah.
But it has been nice.
Yeah. Good. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me here on the podcast. Like I said, this is episode 99 of ours. So episode 100 is coming soon, actually in 2 weeks. And you're going to see all kinds of new stuff. We got a new open. We got a new intro. Pitch and I will be back in the studio in 2 weeks for episode 100. We have a lot of stuff planned for you guys. I appreciate you guys from Broke Brewing today. Yeah. Charn and Mike, we sampled some beer. We talked about the business side of it. We talked about the artistry of it. We talked about the background education, all kinds of great stuff. Appreciate you guys tuning in again to the Neo Marketing Podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and make sure if you're in Oklahoma, stop by here, 3810 North Tulsa, right in the middle of everything. We got the tap room is open. You also packaged so you can come and buy.
Absolutely.
So try a little, come into the tap room, have some flights like this. Have your favorites on tap. You can then get some packaged to go in cans. They also have wine You have spritzer, you have sparkling water, you have snacks.
Yeah.
You can bring the kids. Very friendly, family-friendly place, right?
Absolutely. We brew a hard seltzer as well.
And of course, right now we're observing social distancing, or cleaning, and doing all the stuff that you would expect from any business right now. So make sure you guys check out Broke Brewing
We're
and
at
Taproom.
At Broke Beer on all social media.
There you go. Check them out on social media. Come by the Taproom if you're in Oklahoma City. If you ever come through town, make sure you check them out here as well. Appreciate you guys being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kyle, for having us.
Thanks, guys.